Ba-da-ba-da. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into week 16, Friday AMA, week 16. We are already here. It's crazy how quickly time is flying. We got Christmas next week. We got semifinals this week. Thursday night football game was actually pretty lit last night. So we are here and we are in it. Antonio, first again, what up? Happy Friday. I don't know why the banner looks like that. StreamYard changed everything. There we go. Antonio, welcome in. Jamie, what up, my man? Kevin says, yo. Another Kevin says, what's up? We got multiple Kevins in here. What's good? Toronto Dave is in the chat. Addy Mays, baby. Appreciate y'all. Let's see what we can do. Again, I'm assuming that we're probably going to get a healthy dose of start sit questions because this is one of the most pivotal weeks of the season right here. So I got John Paulson's 4 for 4 rankings pulled up as well to give me kind of a little bit of backing up or a reference in terms of where somebody who may be a little bit more smarter than me on the week-to-week basis can help me out with some of these start sits. So, but first up, we have Philip, who wants to give Patrick Mahomes and Jonathan Taylor and receive Jalen Hurts in a 12-team Superflex PPR, half tight end premium. Crazy team. One of his crazy teams currently in the semis. Hurts has a juicy week 17. Or hold, question mark. My only question for you on this is, does losing Jonathan Taylor hurt you more than it helps you with the fact that you might also not have Alvin Kamara? I mean, you'd be starting Gibbs and James Conner, so that's completely fine. But if you don't have Alvin Kamara, maybe I don't know who your RB3 is. Not that I think that that's necessarily the worst thing, because if Gibbs and Conner are fine for the next 2 weeks, then you don't have to worry about this whatsoever. In a vacuum, I think I would take the Jalen Hurts side on this one. I'd be willing to move off of Mahomes and JT and go get who I consider to be a top 4 dynasty quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And if that helps you out with the matchups too. So I'm on board with doing this. And so my only question would be if you're just not sure, or if you're okay with then having Gibbs and Connor, and then you lose JT in the trade, you might have lost Alvin Kamara from injury, but that's probably totally fine. And because you have Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Puka, Tyreek, Devontae Adams, and Trey McBride, so might not necessarily matter. But I'll take the Jalen Hurts side on this one. I think dynasty wise, I think it makes sense. So I'm all about it. Not sure about Darnold in 2025. No draft capital in 2025. All 26 and 27 futures. Yeah, I mean, I make this trade regardless of what goes on with Sam Darnold. I think he gets a starting job next year. It's just, does he have a job that's in a situation about as optimal as he has in Minnesota right now? That's really the only question mark. But I think you're still going to have a starter, I think, in Darnold. So you'll still have Hurts, Kyler is your QB2. I think it's fine. Darnold and Carr, at least, are starters, I think, next year. Antonio says, Addy, help. Already was a 20-point projected underdog. Now need a flex fill in for Alvin Kamara. We've got Tillman, Kincaid, Andrews to stack with Lamar. Or am I crazy for leaning Tim Patrick? Wow. I think you might be a little crazy for leaning Tim Patrick. But, I mean, I love it. I love Tim Patrick. I love what he's been doing, but I just don't know. I'm kind of nervous about the Bears passing weapons in general or the Lions passing weapons in general, because they play the Bears in Chicago. So we get road Goff, we get outdoor Goff, and Chicago's defense has been solid, I should say, against the pass. So I don't know if I would lean towards Tim Patrick in this. I think my answer would be Mark Andrews to stack with Lamar. Tillman could be interesting if he plays, but I don't really know if I want to go for DTR. I think I would lean for Mark Andrews for the stack and just hope that Lamar connects with him for one touchdown. Maybe he gets 2 out of it. So I would go with Mark Andrews of this entire group. And then 1.5 tight end premium, Strange or Njoku. Again, I hate DTR starting. It throws a wrench into everything in the most critical of times. Paulson does not have Njoku ranked at all. I don't even know. Is Njoku even playing? He didn't practice yesterday, so that's not good. I would play. I mean, he has Brenton Strange as the tight end 11, so he has him as a very startable tight end this week. Good matchup against the Raiders. So I'd go for Brenton Strange. I think I just remove the unknowns of Njoku's injury if he even plays. Remove the unknowns of DTR starting, and just I would go with Brenton Strange. And if I mean, he saw 12 targets last week, so if he does that again, that should be enough for you. And then start one between Flowers, Mooney, Spears, or Bigsby. So I would go for Tyjae Spears if Pollard is out. We're going to go to super flex or just regular flex. So Paulson has Spears ranked as running back 82, but he still has Pollard in here. Pollard is running back 55. So I'd imagine if Pollard is announced out, that Spears would bump up basically to that level. Flowers is 53. I don't love him against the Steelers, though. Mooney is a little further down, and Bigsby even farther down there. So I would go Spears. If Pollard is out, I would go Tyjae Spears. If Pollard plays, I would just play Zay Flowers. I don't love it, but I'd go with one of those two. Steven, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you as well. Semifinal week of the playoffs. Yes, sir. Very, very important. Congratulations to everybody who had a bye week, by the way, last week. Hopefully your team survived and at least survived some of the injuries that we had. So let's move on to week 17. Let's get that championship. Philip, how much of a boost does running back get in non-PPR format? Pretty solid boost because then they are already the position that I kind of lean towards more in flex spots because you get like the touch floor with them. You know, it's more likely that they could score a touchdown if they're getting 14, 15, 16 touches a game versus a wide receiver who is maybe seeing 7 or 8 targets a game. And then you have to cut that maybe down to 4 or 5 actual receptions that they come down with out of those targets. So it really, I would say that the running back in general, production wise, would get a boost in non-scoring. A decent size boost, and then so the production then would go up from that, or the value, I should say, would go up from the increase in production value for the running back, just because of the touches. They could get the same number of yards, score the same amount of points, but they probably have a better projection to actually score a touchdown, or even if they are getting receiving usage, that's more touches overall. Even if you're not getting a point for the reception, that's just still more touches. So I don't know if I can like numerically put a number on what the boost is, but I would say that in general, I would prefer running backs over wide receivers in non-PPR for flex spots. But I would still like to build my dynasty teams through the wide receiver position, even in non-PPR. Steven, in one quarterback, half PPR start for these wide receivers. Wilson, Flowers, DJ Moore, Addison, Jennings, Jacoby Myers. Also have Kittle at the tight end spot, so might not want to rely on 2 weapons from San Francisco. I agree with that. I think I'm sitting Juwan Jennings. Garrett Wilson, I feel like is a lock. My 4 for this would be Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Jordan Addison. I'd probably go Zay Flowers. Those would be my 4, probably. Let's see what Paulson has to say. Paulson has Garrett Wilson ranked as wide receiver 15. He's got DJ Moore ranked as wide receiver 26. Flowers is 28. Addison is 22. So that's probably Jacoby Myers is 24. So he has Jacoby Myers ranked ahead of DJ Moore and Zay Flowers. So Paulson would say to go Wilson, Addison, Myers, DJ Moore. Those would be his 4. I'm on board with that. Myers has a better matchup than Zay Flowers, but I feel like Zay is just maybe a little bit more. I think Zay has more upside and also is a little bit more trustworthy. I did not like what I saw whatsoever from Jacoby Myers with Desmond Ridder. So I think I would lean with Zay Flowers over Jacoby Myers, thus playing Wilson, Flowers, DJ Moore, Addison, the first 4 that you have there. That's where I lean. Paulson would say to go Myers over Flowers, but I think Flowers has more upside. Same floor, higher upside, in my personal opinion, even with a slightly worse matchup. We got to sit one between Kupp, London, and Garrett Wilson. Been leading Cooper Kupp. So Wilson's wide receiver 15. London is wide receiver 21, and Cooper Kupp is wide receiver 19. I agree with that as well. My opinion was my initial thought was to sit Drake London and remove myself from the unknowns of Michael Penix starting this week. Cooper Kupp has a much better matchup against the Jets, especially if he's not getting Sauce. If Puka gets Sauce, and then the Jets, whoever the Jets wide cornerback to, I can't remember off the top of my head, but then that'll get Cooper Kupp. And then Garrett Wilson gets a good matchup on the opposite end. So I think I'd play both wide receivers in the same matchup and sit Drake London, who gets the Giants, tougher matchup, at least on paper, and is starting a new quarterback. So I'd sit Drake London of these three. I want to remove myself from as much unknown as I can in week 16. And if that is the decision that I lose because of, then I think that that's just something that I just throw my hands up in the air, and that's just kind of how it is. I'd rather go down with as good of a process as I can, in my opinion, than try to get cute in week 16 and just let the chips fall where they might. So I'd sit Drake London. Kevin, we got to start 10-team Superflex start 12. We got to give Pacheco, Kraft, Tank Dell, and a late 25-second receive Kyren, Pitts, and Estime. Is this worth it to receive Kyren Williams? I think I don't think so. I think I would keep the Pacheco side. The only reason being is that this is a start 12. I don't feel confident whatsoever in starting Estime. There really doesn't feel like a difference between Kraft and Pitts right now, so those two can effectively, I think, cross off. So in my opinion, you are trading Pacheco, Dell, and a second for Kyren Williams. And I think in a start 12, I think I would rather just value the two guys that maybe, of course, individually are not what Kyren Williams is doing right now, but in totality, in a start 12, I think I would prefer just to have the two solid starters rather than the one really good starter. And you get to keep your extra second round pick too. So, and this is being a 10-team league, so that late second is more like a mid second in 12-team leagues. Because if it's 208, that's actually 206 in a 12-team league. That's how you to standardize it, I guess. So I think I would keep the Pacheco, Tank Dell in a second rather than go for just Kyren Williams, in my opinion. Brian, 16 team start 8, 1 quarterback, points per first down, locked in. Darnold, Gibbs, Barkley, Jefferson, Bowers need 3, including 1 wide receiver. Yeah. So I said to go with Kendre, Pacheco, and I don't remember Patrick Taylor being in there. So I think I might go with Patrick Taylor, but you need 1 wide receiver. So I think I would go Pacheco, Kendre, and Mooney. Although I don't love it. Mooney is wide receiver 36. Amari is wide receiver 63. Yikes. And Christian Watson is wide receiver 45 on Paulson's rankings. So Paulson would say to go with Darnell Mooney for the wide receivers, and then I would play Pacheco and Kendre Miller for the other two for the touch floor, rather than mess with Watson or Cooper or Hunter Henry. So Pacheco, Kendre, Darnell Mooney would be my 3. Bo, in a 12-team Superflex, start 10, tight end premium, half point tight end premium. Baker, Darnold, Chase Brown, Hall, maybe. Puka, Amon-Ra, Nico, McBride. Great. Pick 2 flexes out of Terry, Tracy, Ramondre, McMillan, and Hawk. And you also have Brian Robinson as a flex option. Had the 1 seed and first points max 4, but playing last year's winner. Well, if you're in first place, I can see why you're in first. You have a phenomenal team. So I would play Breece Hall. It seems like he's good to go. So I would play Breece Hall, and then I would go Terry, I don't love it, but I would go Terry. And then I would probably go. Hawk gets the extra half point. Does that matter? Do we go with the touch floor of Tracy? Tracy is flex 59. Terry McLaurin is flex 34. Hopefully, it's not a repeat of last time they played Philly, but I feel like just confidence wise, he's up there. Ramondre's flex 70. McMillan is flex 79, and Hawk is flex 76. So those three are basically down there in the 70s. Tracy was 59, and then Terry. So Paulson would say to go Terry and Tracy. And honestly, I immediately went to McLaurin, and my initial thought was to go with Tyron. Oh, yeah, Brian Robinson too. Brian Robinson is at 46. So he is ahead of Tracy. I feel more confident in Brian Robinson. I'd played both the Commanders. Ravens downgraded. Oh, Nelson Aguilar. Nobody cares. I'd play both Commanders. I'd play Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson would be my final answer for that one. You have a fantastic team, by the way. Well done. Benjamin, 12-team Superflex PPR half tight end premium start 10. Are we sending Russ and JT getting CMC and Kamara? I think we absolutely are. I would take either running back over Russell Wilson at this point, and then the other running back kind of just feels synonymous to JT. So I would take Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara in this one. I think this is the best deal that I've seen from your options that we've been discussing over for a while. I feel like I would take this one in a heartbeat. Yan Baggy, sup, happy Friday. Mahomes may or discount double check this week in the semis in Dynasty. Hate to even debate this question. I would go with Aaron Rodgers, honestly. Let's see. Paulson has Rodgers ranked at QB 15. He's got Drake May, I know, substantially lower than that at 27. And Mahomes is at 17. So he even has Rodgers ranked ahead of Mahomes just outright. So I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Ride the coattails of what they were able to do last week against a pretty average defense in the Rams. And they're at home. So ride the wave with Aaron Rodgers, I think. Is Bo Nix bad? I mean, for half of the game last night, he was good. 260 yards and 2 touchdowns on a 72% completion percentage, averaging 7.58 adjusted yards per attempt. That's the game that you want a victory lap on, Genji? That's the victory lap game for you? Connor, afternoon Addison, gross playoff RB2, Spears or Patrick Taylor or Kareem Hunt? I would play Spears. I would play Spears if Tony Pollard is out. If Tony Pollard is in, then I would play Patrick Taylor, assuming that Garendo is out. If in a world Garendo and Pollard both play, I would then lean towards Tyjae Spears. But my order would be Spears with Pollard out, Patrick Taylor with Garendo out, Spears in all other situations. Mike, good afternoon, Addison. Good afternoon to you. DK Metcalf or Najee Harris this week? I think you just got to go Najee Harris. DK's been kind of rough, and Najee's getting a bunch of touches. So Najee is flex 72. Metcalf is 48. Paulson has this pretty substantially in the Metcalf side, but they're separated by 2 fantasy points per of projection. Man, I just don't know how you just don't go with Najee Harris. Metcalf has been rough. I understand that he gets a really good matchup against the Vikings, but I mean, you look at his points the last couple of weeks. Where's this at? In PPR, he's had 14, 9, 10, 9, and 6. Against a couple of good matchups in there, too. I don't know about this one, Paulson. I think I lean towards Najee, man. He's got the touch floor. Last time they played Baltimore, he put up 13 PPR points. He had 13, 7, 25, 11, and 3. Although I could have told you that he would have had 3 against Philly. Their run defense is really good, and I bet on the Eagles to win that game. So I knew the game script right there as a Steelers fan was that was an Eagles win. I feel like I'd play Najee this week against Baltimore. Paulson would say Metcalf though, but I think I'm Team Najee on this one. Also, Buffalo defense against the Patriots or Cincinnati defense against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'd go with Buffalo. They've just, in general, have been a much better defense, even though it seems like they might get a slightly worse matchup with, May at quarterback versus DTR. Paulson has Buffalo ranked as the defense number 1. Where are the Bengals? Bengals are 4. But Buffalo just in general has been a good defense this year. So I'd go with Buffalo, even with some of their injuries and stuff. Penix over ETN and Superflex had Jamison Carr at second quarterback. I think I would go with Penix over ETN there. I just feel more confident in what he is going to be able to do. Like a median game for ETN doesn't feel as strong as like a median game for Atlanta's quarterback. You know what I mean? So Paulson has Michael Penix ranked at QB 29, but that's a projection of 13 fantasy points versus ETN is projected 12 fantasy points. So Paulson just in his rankings would say to go with Penix as well. And then, not even on the upside of, what if they do well against the Giants? He connects with London or Pitts or Bijan or, there's not a lot here that it's kind of the same argument for why Kirk Cousins could have been good. But, Penix doesn't feel like he has to do a lot himself, that a lot of his weapons can do some stuff with the ball in their hands. So if he has a dump off pass to, Bijan that goes 50 yards, that's 2 fantasy points for Penix, and Bijan did all the work. Or, same thing can be said if he does it with Pitts or London or Mooney or any of those guys. I think I would just go with the quarterback and Penix over ETN. Hey, Addison start sit full PPR. Lost Kamara, Ford, or Kendre, and Strange or Muth. I'd go with Strange, and I'd go with Kendre Miller. If you want the backup on it, Paulson has Kendre ranked running back 31, and he's got Ford ranked, running back 17. Paulson would say go with Jerome Ford. Again, I just don't trust DTR whatsoever. I'd personally go with Kendre Miller. I'm saying that with Kendre, and I'm placing my trust in Jake Haener against the Packers. I'll go with. Okay, I'm on board with going with Jerome Ford. Although I will go Brenton Strange. And just to check with that one, Brenton Strange is tight end 11. Muth is tight end 8, but they're separated by half a fantasy point. I would go with Brenton Strange on that one. I'm putting my foot down on Brenton Strange, but I would go. I'm on board with Paulson with going with Jerome Ford. T. Higgins is good to go for Sunday. Whew. Joe Burrow was limited, but he's ready to go. David Montgomery potentially returning. I think we see where this goes. That's kind of interesting. If Monty avoided surgery for their playoff run. Jerome Ford, Brenton Strange. Final answer. 2 different leagues. Do I bench Brees for Neighbors and Jonnu? I would probably. I'm all right with it for Neighbors. Neighbors is flex 24. Brees is flex 50. So Paulson would say to do that in general. And Jonnu is flex 39. So he would say to flex Jonnu ahead of Brees as well. I'm definitely on board with it for Neighbors. I don't know if I like it as much with Jonnu. I feel like I might just go down with the ship with Brees Hall. He at least got solid touches last week. Like he had 11 touches in his first week back, 12 touches the week before that. Scored a touchdown last week too. So I don't know. I'm on board with it for both of them. I just feel like I'm not able to swallow it as well for Jonnu. I feel like I'd rather just go down with the ship for Brees Hall. But I would play Neighbors. I'm good with Neighbors. Kendre over Tyrone Tracy this week. I think I'd still lean Tracy. This whole entire show so far has just become me control effing Paulson's rankings. Yes, I would go with. He has Tracy ranked ahead of Kendre Miller, and I do agree with that one. So I would go with Tracy. Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson? I'd go with Mark Andrews this week. Once again, to double check. Paulson has their tight end 7 and tight end 9, separated by, again, like half a fantasy point. I'd go with Mark Andrews on this one. Need a PPR flex, Pollard, Dobbs, Pop Douglas, Brenton Strange, Calvin Ridley. I would go with either Titan. If Pollard plays, I'd go with Tony Pollard. If Pollard is out, I'd go with Calvin Ridley. That'd be my order for that. Strange would then be next, but I'd go with Pollard if he plays, Ridley if not. Start 3 running backs out of Bucky, Chase Brown, Achane, Henry. The real question is Brown versus Bucky. Got a bad feeling about Brown versus the Browns. Brown versus the Browns. Well, I'm playing Henry. I don't know how you sit Chase Brown. Like at this point, I think it's just impossible to sit Chase Brown. Paulson, the way Paulson has it ranked right now, Achane is RB2, Chase Brown is RB4, Derrick Henry is RB13. So Paulson just is very adamant that you need to play Chase Brown, and I agree with that. I did think that Bucky was kind of the odd man out here. He's coming in with an injury. They play Dallas in Dallas, and Dallas has been a really bad rush defense, but if they're trying to soften up on Bucky to make sure that he's still healthy, it might just be another Rachaad White game like what we saw last week. So I think I'm leaning into the touches of Chase Brown. I'm leaning into the touches of Devon Achane, and Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry. So I would sit Bucky Irving of these. Honestly, I don't know if you necessarily have a wrong answer here. All 4 of these guys are ranked inside the top 15 for Paulson this week. I just feel slightly less confident in Bucky because of the injuries that he's been dealing with for the past couple of weeks, that if he were to re-aggravate that injury and sit out for a half or sit out for the entire game almost, that could be the difference between making it to the championship next week or not. So to me, I think Chase Brown, Achane, and Henry are just as good, if not better, of starts. And I'd go with those 3 and not have questions about Bucky's injuries. Superflex 12 team price check on Matthew Stafford. I want to give a second and a fourth. Owner wants 2 seconds. I probably wouldn't pay 2 seconds for Matthew Stafford. I think it's fine. I understand why he wants 2 seconds. Can we just make it a second and a third and just meet in the middle? You want to pay a second and a fourth. He wants 2 seconds. Can we just pay a second and a third and meet in the middle? I think 2 seconds just might be a little bit too much for Stafford right now. I feel like you can get Aaron Rodgers for 1 second, and have the exact same thing. Full PP. I'd still go Najee on that one. Although I get it with DK Metcalf. The upside's there against a really good matchup, but I feel like I'm just in on Najee. Full PPR Superflex lineup with this week is Lamar. Fantastic lineup. First guys off the bench are Zay and DJ Moore. Would you roll this lineup or sub in Zay or DJ Moore anywhere? Nope, I would not. I'm playing Nico JSN pretty easily over both those wide receivers, or both the other 2 wide receivers. I think you got to play all 4 running backs. You have the optimal lineup already. So I'm fine sitting Zay and DJ Moore. Kamara being out would hurt. I would need to start Kendre or Abdullah. Who would you start? I'd go with Kendre Miller there. I don't trust Amir Abdullah. I'd go with Kendre. Metcalf or DJ Moore for the playoffs? Whew. What a question, man. Both have fantastic matchups. Metcalf it's wide receiver 25 and 26 in Paulson's rankings. Thanks, Paulson. Both projected the exact same amount of points. I think I would go DJ Moore. I think that there is a higher likelihood that DJ Moore is going to be more necessary for the Bears to compete than DK Metcalf will against the Vikings. I think that while I do think that Minnesota wins that game, I think there's also a fair assumption to say that Seattle could win that game at home. And if they get out to an early lead, maybe DK becomes less valuable, less necessary for them to win. It could be more of a JSN game, could be a Charbonnet game. Whereas I don't think there's any possibility where Chicago jumps out to an early lead against Detroit, thus forcing them to kind of slow the game clock down. I think that they're going to be playing from behind, and I think DJ Moore is going to be necessary. So I think I lean DJ Moore from that process. There's a higher likelihood he's more necessary. In PPR, 0.25 points per carry. Which two should I start out of Judy, Keon, or Bigsby? 0.25 point per carry. You like to see that. I would go Bigsby in that regard then for the extra point per carry. They do play Vegas, so that is nice. I guess I have to play Judy then over Keon Coleman. I don't love the DTR start for Jerry Judy, but if there's going to be one guy, hopefully that he hyper targets, especially if Njoku's out, I think I'd play Judy and Bigsby in this one and sit Keon Coleman. No, I would play T. Higgins. This is not the week to get cute. I don't think this is. I actually did watch the end. I watched up until because I had a 12-leg parlay going last night, and I stopped watching one of my legs in my parlay, the only one that broke. I hit 11 out of the 12 legs. The one leg that did not hit was Gus Edwards under 35 rushing yards. And he was there up until his freaking 40-yard run that apparently is the longest run he's had in 5 years. So that's when I stopped watching. There was about 4 minutes left in the game. That's when I stopped. Up until that point, though, I wasn't really watching. I was just keeping tabs on what was going on. So I definitely was box score scouting more than I was last night, but Bo Nix looked completely fine for the first half. And then I don't know what happened in the second half. I think they just got complacent. But Bo Nix was good for the first half, I will say. 12 legs. 12-leg parlay, 11 of them hit. It was I threw a couple bucks on it. I was like, dude, this could help pay for a couple Christmas presents, last minute things. 12 legs. It was like $2 turned into like 180, and I hit on 11 of them. And Gus Edwards screwed me on the last one. Hate to see it. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like both quarterbacks get to 200. Sutton gets to 40. McConkey gets to 40. I think it had like over like 35. Both kickers kicked 2 field goals, so that was good. And then the unders on a couple guys, and Gus Edwards was one under. Thanks. Offseason question: if Penix looks good these last few games, would you take him over all the quarterbacks in the incoming rookie class? Probably. I think it would depend on how good he looked. Honestly, I have to tell you, I just really am not the biggest fan of the class this year. I think Cam Ward honestly might come out ranked as my QB1 in the class. I'm just not a Shedeur Sanders fan. I can't really tell you why, but I just am not a massive fan of Shedeur Sanders, especially whenever you consider the fact that one or both of them are going to go to really bad situations. Like if one ends up in New York with the Giants and the other one ends up in Vegas, how would you not want Penix's situation over either one of those two situations? Even if Shedeur goes to New York and he gets neighbors, great. But what else do they have? And do they have a new coaching staff or not? I feel like Penix might be a safer asset going into next season than either the other two quarterbacks in this, because it's really just two, because Drew Aller already announced that he's staying. And Carson Beck sucks, and Quinn Ewers also not good. So it's Shedeur and it's Cam Ward, and that's how you were with Caleb. But Shedeur is so much worse of a prospect than Caleb Williams too. And again, I can't really tell you why I don't really like Shedeur Sanders. I'm just not into it. Cam Ward probably is going to end up being my QB1, but I think that he's just fine. Penix, I think, offers decent upside in the situation that he's in. And I think I was talking with Justin before. He brought up a good point that, and this is Zach also kind of reminded me with Jalen Polk is that, the 3 wide receivers that Penix had last year was Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. And Odunze, I mean, we knew that situation was rough, but he's elite still. Jalen Polk has not done anything. And yes, Zach, I do think that Jalen Polk is cuttable at this point. He hasn't done anything in what was perceived to be a really good situation. And McMillan largely has not done anything up until the last 2 weeks these past 2 weeks has not really done anything either. So, if 2/3 of Penix's wide receivers last year are not real NFL material, or like they're 1.5 of the receivers are NFL material, so to speak. We'll see with McMillan. Um, and Penix was still throwing for like 4,500 yards and whatever. That Penix might just be that good, and that he was elevating his receivers to that point. That maybe that's more translatable into the NFL. So can't say for certain because we haven't seen Penix play, but I think that if Penix looks solid over the next 3 weeks, that I think that he is most likely going to be ranked higher than any quarterback in this class. And yeah, Ewers might not even come out. So if Ewers doesn't come out, I don't even know if Beck is going to come out. Like, it's really just Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are the only 2 quarterbacks in this class. And I don't know if I'm a major fan of either one of them. And yeah, that's the fact that KJ Osborne and Booty were looking better than Jalen Polk is definitely super concerning. I do agree that was a bad pick. Justin was all for it. Justin was a big Jalen Polk fan. I did not like Jalen Polk. I actually had my wide receiver list pulled up because I was preparing for my wide receiver 2025 wide receiver video. Jalen Polk graded out as the wide receiver 12 after my draft capital adjustments. So that's how bad Jalen Polk was in my marker analytical system, with the fact that he was already low enough to begin with, then was, in my opinion, overdrafted in the second round, got bumped up from the draft capital adjustment that I do at the end, and was still coming out at wide receiver 12. So yeah, that's rough. So that's where we're at with Polk. So we'll see with Penix. Hopefully he does do well. Where was I coming up here? There's the Penix question. Zach, do I consider benching Goff or Purdy for May this week? No. I would play Purdy, I think. I don't love Goff against the Bears in Chicago. Where do we have? Paulson has Goff ranked as QB 10. Purdy is QB 13. May's ranked all the way down to QB 27. I don't love the Buffalo matchup in Buffalo. All 3 of these guys are on the road. Purdy's traveling across the country to go to play to Miami. Goff is traveling like 100 miles to Chicago, but he has Goff ranked the highest. I think I would go with Jared Goff just because of the weapons. He has the best weapons of the group. Has produced the best out of these 3 seasonally. I think I would still go with Jared Goff. And I would also play Purdy over May. So no, I would sit Drake May. Cheers from Brazil, Addison. Welcome from Brazil. I love to hear whenever there's people internationally that tune into this. It's really awesome to see. So welcome in. Is it Bonzera? Did I pronounce that right? I didn't even want to attempt it, but I went for it. So hopefully that was pronounced right. How much would you pay to buy Terry McLaurin in a scenario that you will play the semifinal versus Jaden Daniels? I have the 1-3, 107, 110, and a second 12-team, 1 quarterback PBR tight end premium start 9. Good question. The second is not enough for Terry at this point. I don't think it'll get you there. I think ideally I'd like to pay 2 seconds if you can. But I think I would probably go. I think your best bet is probably using that 110. I would toss that 110 out, see what comes back. I don't know if I would definitely not pay the 103. Would not do that. And the second, I don't think is enough. That you're definitely going to have to add to the second. So your options are really the 107 and the 110 straight up. I don't know if I want to pay the 1.07. The fact that it's a one quarterback league, I think makes it a little bit more manageable. Because at the 107, you're probably going to be looking at maybe Ibuka's there, maybe Travion. It's one of the like wide receiver 3 or 4, running back 3 or 4, essentially. Maybe it's Tyler Warren. But that's essentially who you're looking at 107, and then 110 is just a couple players behind that. So I throw the 110 out, see where that gets you. If you'd prefer to have the 107, I'd probably be comfortable paying the 1.07 still. But I would start with the 110, go to the 107, not really adding anything more to that. If you can do it with a second, then that's phenomenal. If you can do a 25 and 26 second for Terry, I think that that's better than giving up the first. So those would be better, but I don't know if they get done. So I'd start with 2 seconds, then go to the 110, then go to the 107. See how he feels about all of those, and see if you can get Terry McLaurin. That's how I do it. Appreciate you joining from Brazil, man. That's awesome. Thank you. Antonio with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Antonio, for the support. He's got one more for me. Is Tillman worth Pop Douglas and the 2.05 in a 14-team PPR? I don't know. I'm going to say no, because I don't know if Tillman is worth the 2.05. The 14 team is nice. So that's, theoretically like the 2.07 in a 12 team league. I feel like I'd rather go into the offseason with that second. Because I don't really think that the offseason is going to be all that drastic that's going to, change Cedric Tillman's value positively to where you'd be upset that you didn't take Tillman for this, or that you couldn't just buy Tillman again with, the 205, and maybe you have to toss in an extra third or something like that, or whatever, or somebody that's slightly better than Pop Douglas. So, and then plus in the offseason, I feel like more people are just going to be more attracted to that second round pick. You're going to get more offers probably that include the second than you would if you had Tillman. More people are going to be interested in it as rookie fever kind of gets along. It's an easier pick to use to tier up if you want to do that, or move into the first round. It's probably easier to use the 205 than it is to use Tillman. I would keep the 2.05. I just think it's more flexible, more liquid. And if you really want Cedric Tillman, I think in the offseason, I don't think you'd have to do a substantially different trade than what you have offered to you right now, or what you're trying to do. Especially with the news that Deshaun Watson might be the starter for the Browns again next year. That sucks. So I think I would just keep the 2.05 or take the 2.05. I want the pick in this regard. But thank you for the $5 super chat for sure. Appreciate you very, very much. Genji, how are we feeling on Penn State? I'm looking out for Tyler Warren and Brashard Smith. Penn State like tomorrow, because we're gonna smoke SMU tomorrow. These Dallas kids aren't going to be ready for it. It's snowing right now. Is it still snowing? Yes, it is. It's still snowing right now. These Dallas kids ain't going to be ready for the cold weather. So Penn State by 7.5 at least. They ain't ready for it. That's why I also feel confident about us playing Boise, not from the sense that, because Boise's not going to come up here. But I just feel like we could ride that momentum in Boise. We really just have to shut down Genty. Because if we, not to say that that's such an easy thing to do. I mean, you rushed for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oregon, but if we can mitigate Genty's effect, then I think that we're moving right on to being a top 4 team, hopefully. But I feel very confident about our abilities against SMU this week. And I saw a Twitter promo that they had. It was just like tomorrow or something like that from one of the Penn State football accounts. And the helmet was the helmet from the pinstripe uniforms. And if we play with the pinstripe uniforms on, Penn State pinstripes, dude, they just hit different. They're probably my favorite jersey ever in any, like in NCAA, in NFL, Penn State pinstripes, man, with the numbers on the helmet. That and the powder blue Chargers uniforms. Beautiful. Zach, need to choose two of these quarterbacks to start this week between Mahomes, Tua, Rodgers, and Caleb. Great question. So I would start Rodgers. I immediately gravitated right towards Rodgers. He's in my DraftKings lineup this week, which may actually be a bad thing because I have not done well with picking quarterbacks in DraftKings. Paulson has Tua QB 14, Rodgers QB 15, Mahomes QB 17, then Caleb QB 18. So he's got Tua and Rodgers at the top. All four of these guys are a 5 spot, like a 5 pick slot, right? Basically in here. I don't know if I trust Caleb Williams. Like, I don't know. When you have these other options, I feel like I'd just go with, I'd bench Caleb Williams in the playoffs this week. I don't mind Tua against the Niners at home. I went right to Rodgers. Mahomes at home against Kansas City could be interesting too. I don't know if weather might impact that. I'm sitting here just wondering if there might be weather in Kansas City. Let's see. Nope. 48 degrees and partly sunny. So there's that. But then there's I'd play Rodgers, and then I think your decision is between Tua and Patrick Mahomes. I think I'm good leaning with what Paulson has ranked here is playing Tua over Mahomes. So I think I'd go Tua and Aaron Rodgers and sit Mahomes this week. Tyler with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. Thank you for the support. We got a redraft question here. Thoughts on Kendre Miller, and does Rain Hurler a kicker like Richard, or should I grab Ryland D? Hold on, I don't even know. I don't even know what the Rain hurt a kicker. So thoughts on Kendre Miller? We'll attack that one first before I figure out what the second half of this one should be. If you just want to type in you don't have to send another super chat, but you could type in what that sentence should say. I hurt a kicker like Richard, or should I grab Ryland D? I'll look at kicker rankings here in a second. But Kendre Miller, I think, is going to be solid. I think he's going to be leaned on more in this offense from a rushing standpoint, obviously without Alvin Kamara. And then he's not a bad pass catcher. So I don't think he's going to be Alvin Kamara pass catcher, but we might have kind of like a Jordan Mason situation where he's going to get a lot of the rushing work, and he might get 1 or 2 targets and receptions, just like how Jordan Mason kind of was. So I think that he's going to be fine. The matchup isn't necessarily fantastic. Of course, the Saints offense is not totally great. But I still feel confident that Kendre Miller could return onto being a RB2 on the week. I think he's ranked for Paulson as the running back 31. Yeah. But he's like right in the same tier basically as Pacheco and Swift and Ramondre, and Amir Abdullah is like ranked in that same situation, and ETN. So I feel like I think that Kendre Miller has a fair shot to be a top 24 running back. Seattle 80% chance of rain. I don't know if that matters in the Arizona game. It's only cold. Got it. So from the kicker standpoint, Paulson has Reichard as kicker 5, and he's got Ryland as kicker 11. So they're only separated by 0.2 fantasy points in projection. I think Ryland could be more interesting against the Panthers. Arizona on the road could be sluggish, traveling from Arizona all the way out to North Carolina. Sorry. And Carolina's defense maybe is able to hang with them a little bit, potentially. Jalen Waddle is doubtful. Ooh. Sounds like he might not play. Yeah, Reichard has had 6 and 12 fantasy points over the last couple of weeks. Ryland has had 12 and 4 He had 4 against Seattle, 6 against Seattle the week before that, 16 against Minnesota at Minnesota. See, that's where they get you. I think I'm. If you are worried about the rain, I am. That rain could potentially go one of two ways. The rain could be a reason why drives stall, and thus he has to kick more. But then he's also outside, and then there's the weather factor of that. So it's kind of like a which side of the rain do you want to be on? I'm fine with playing Ryland over Reichard. I'm totally okay with that. Or if you can pick up like I don't know if Fairbairns is available or anybody like that, but like, it could be maybe you can go that route. Jason Sanders maybe. Boswell against Baltimore. I'm sorry. I wish I could be more help on the kicker questions. But I am. My strategy with kickers is I draft one. I just draft the name that I like, and then whenever I play him until he gets to a bye week, and then whenever he gets his bye week, I drop somebody else. I drop him and pick up somebody else and play them for the remainder of the year. So I don't really, I don't pay attention to the kickers all that much. So it might not make that big of a difference. I'm good with either one of the two. If you feel like the rain is going to be a bigger problem than it should be for Reichard, then you can pick up Ryland. I'm good with that. Thank you for the super chat as well too, Tyler. Grizzly Bear 22 with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support. 2025 rookie best draft best value. 101 for 104 and 1.06. I would take the 1.01. Just give me Ashton Genty and we'll be good. Is this one quarterback or super flex? Because if this is one quarterback, I especially want the 1.01. Super flex, it makes it a little bit more interesting, but I just don't think that there are enough players really at the top that really get me excited at 104 and 106 versus just having Ashton Genty. Like I like super flex. See, super flex at least I think makes it interesting because if you assume that Genty and Tech go 1 and 2, maybe Shador goes 3, then you can get Luther Burden at 104, and then maybe you get like Omari and Hampton at 106. Or Omari and Hampton at 104, and then you get Burden or somebody at 106. That could be the way to go. See, the super flex at least makes it a little bit more interesting because you get Shador and Cam Ward into this conversation that could push other talent down to you that you're not getting in a one quarterback league. That being said, though, I still think I just want Ashton Genty. So I would take the 1.01. I will say, if you are in like a hardcore rebuild, like a hardcore, I am multiple years out of a rebuild, then I think that 4 and 6 could be more beneficial to you to get 2 shots on rookies to build your team around versus just Ashton Genty. So there's maybe the one caveat that I would take the 104 and the 106. But in most other super circumstances, I just want Ashton Genty. So appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you so much. Where were we before we hit all of those? I just keep scrolling. What is your outlook on Michael Mayer for Dynasty? Is it worth holding him to see if he's traded? Also, do you like Warren or Loveland better for rookie drafts? Always Tyler Warren. I'm team Tyler Warren for that one. Not just my Penn State bias, but I do think that Warren is just a better fantasy tight end at the NFL level than Loveland. And my outlook for Michael Mayer, I definitely think that he should not be on waivers. He's definitely worth holding on to. If anything, he's essentially what Isaiah Likely has been for the past couple of years, which is a really good handcuff that if the starter were to ever go down, it's weird to kind of have handcuff tight ends, but there are a couple of them, and I think Michael Mayer is one of them. And like he's never somebody that you're really going to be wanting to start, even though he's going to have startable weeks, as we've seen once or twice this year. But I think that he's very, very talented. It's just he's playing behind someone who's even more talented than him. So maybe he gets traded. Maybe you wait another couple years and then he signs somewhere else. But I think that Michael Mayer is just too good just to not hold on to. If the alternative is you dropping him to the waiver wire, I think that Michael Mayer is just too good to be on waivers. Now in trades, I'd probably keep him over like a random third round pick. But if you get a second for him, then I'm absolutely trading Michael Mayer for a second. But you're not going to get a second for him. That's just kind of I'd take him over a third, but I would sell him for a second. That's just kind of where we're at, I think, with Michael Mayer. Don't drop him for sure. Love Fridays as usual. Do you prefer reverse max points for non-playoff teams? Yeah, I think that is the fairest way to basically judge team talent, more or less, to get the worst team to have the 1.01 and then the seventh best team to get the 1.06 and rank it that way. I think it's definitely the fairest. I don't really have like a really hardcore opinion on the difference between reverse max points for or record or regular points for or anything like that. Like I don't really have strong opinions on any one of those different ways. But I do think that out of all of the different ways to sort out who gets the 101 through the 106 for non-playoff teams, that I think reverse max points for is the fairest. So I'm good with that. Oscar, pick 3 to start this week between Rachaad White, Rico Dowdle, Najee Harris, or Juwan Jennings. Give me all of the running backs. I'm sitting Juwan Jennings this week. I'll start the other 3. Paulson, to back this up, Rachaad White. No, don't add a bookmark. I want to. Rachaad White is flex 52. Dowdle is flex 13. Najee is flex 72. And Juwan is flex 37. So he would say to start Juwan over Najee. I'm still leaning into Najee on this one. So maybe that comes down to who you want to listen to, who you'd rather prefer to listen to. Paulson would say White, Dowdle, and Jennings, and I'm saying the 3 running backs. I think in a half PPR, it definitely leans more towards Najee too than Jennings. What are these rankings that you're looking at? These are John Paulson's rankings on 4for4.com. John Paulson is one of the most accurate rankers in the industry. He has won Fantasy Pros' most accurate ranker multiple times. Let me see. It's on his Twitter profile, I think. John Paulson. 10-time top 10 accuracy between 2010 to 2021. 8-time top 5 accuracy between those same years. 2 times Fantasy Pros most accurate expert. That is the rankings that I'm pulling off of. He works for 4for4, who's our sister site. We're all owned under the BetSperts umbrella, but they acquired DLF for the Dynasty side of it, and they acquired 4for4 for the redraft side. So that's why I gravitate towards 4for4 as well, because Paulson is an excellent ranker, and it's kind of like our sister website to run. So it makes sense in all regards. Best information possible for you guys. But they're you can see all these rankings. It's behind the paywall, but for the remainder of the year, it's probably like $3, I think. And you can use promo code YouTube for an extra 25% off for the last 3 weeks. If you just want like the standard access to his rankings and the Discord channel, because then he also does a AMA on the Discord channel too. So you can ask him the same things. Or you can just see the rankings and then go through all that. But then we also have betting and DFS packages too. And those will extend, I believe, through to the Super Bowl. I know betting does, at least. I think DFS does too, because we did DFS shows last year for wild card and divisional and championship week. So there's extra packages. But if you just want the regular ones just to see Paulson's rankings that I'm reading off of, it's like probably $2 or $3 for the remainder of the year. Highly recommend it, by the way. Torn on my flex this week with Pickens out, McMillan or Mooney. I'm currently leaning McMillan with uncertainty around Penix. Got Tracy and Pollard as options as well, but feel they are lesser. I would start Pollard probably. Where's McMillan on here? McMillan is flex 79. Tracy is flex 59. Pollard is flex 55. And Mooney is flex 66. So Paulson technically says that McMillan is the worst option of these four. I would play Tony Pollard. If Pollard was active, I'd probably play Tony Pollard. I do like Tyron Tracy for the upside that he'll have against the Falcons and the touch floor. So I'm good with playing McMillan over Mooney. If you want to go with one of the wide receivers, I'm totally cool playing McMillan over Mooney and removing the Penix uncertainty. I just feel like both running backs might be safer, but it also depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a bit more upside, McMillan might have the upside, the overall ceiling of this. But I think if you're looking for just kind of like points, I feel like Pollard, if he's active, or just Tracy in general, might be a better way to go. It is full PPR. These are, I switched to the full PPR rankings too, and that's so. Again, if you're looking for the ceiling, or if you are really dead set on playing the wide receiver, I'm fine with McMillan over Mooney. But I might just go with one of the running backs. And I would play Tony Pollard if he was healthy against the Colts. Great matchup. So I think I would lean towards that. Browns last matchup against the Browns. Browns last game against the Browns. Browns. That was, hold on a second. Oh, yeah, Zach Moss was active during that role. So that was still the last time that Chase Brown played the Browns. Like, I get it, the comparison, but at the same time, that was before Chase Brown started playing like Christian McCaffrey because Zach Moss was out. Like, Zach Moss still had 30% of the carries in that game. And so Chase, had 17 touches for 50 yards, and that was it. But, Zach Moss was still soaking up 10 touches of his own. So that was also prior to Zach Moss being Zach Moss. And if Cincy gets out to a good, since he's able to win this game and the game script's more positive for Chase Brown because they're playing against DTR and Cleveland's offense can't really move, that could be better things for Chase Brown as well to kind of ice out the game. And if he scores, he could be one of the reasons why Cincy goes up. So I'd play Chase Brown. Who are we sitting between London, Flowers, and McLaurin? Crap. I would play McLaurin. So really, I think for me, it's between Flowers and London. And I think I would sit Flowers, maybe. I don't love it. Paulson would say to sit Flowers too. That's initially where I went. Just because of Lamar, just in general, isn't necessarily great against the Steelers. And if that kind of flows down to his passing weapons, may not be great for Zay Flowers. We'll see with London, with Penix. But I think I'm okay still playing London here in this scenario. I would definitely play McLaurin. I feel like he's locked. Then I would play London. Hey, Addison, huge underdog in my redraft matchup. Are we going Goff or Penix? Wow. I think I would just swing for the fences with Jared Goff. I know you're going to get outdoor road Jared Goff, but just from a trust standpoint, we've never seen it with Penix. He could just be bad. Or this is also like his first career game, could also still be bad. Goff could, throw a 70-yard touchdown to Jameson Williams, and that could basically be the entirety of Penix's production. He could throw it to Amon-Ra, he can throw it to Sam Laporta. They get down to the red zone, it could be Tim Patrick. I feel like just Goff has so many more ways to get there for the ceiling than Penix in his first potential game. So I think I'd still lean towards Jared Goff. He's the top 10 quarterback for Paulson this week. It's just the weapons. He doesn't really have to do all that much. He could dump it off to Jahmyr Gibbs, and Gibbs could have a 60-yard touchdown. So I think that there's just so many more ways for Goff to get there without him having to really do much. So I'd still go with Jared Goff. Mooney versus Amari from earlier, both 0 last week. Penix creates hope for Mooney. Week 16, 2023, Amari, different team, but different quarterback, but a scary bench for sure. I'd still go with Mooney. Amari has not been good at all with Buffalo. And if this might be a game where, I could realistically see Josh Allen throwing the ball like less than 20 times this week against the Patriots, where they just dominate. Josh Allen runs for 40 yards and scores twice on the ground. James Cook scores once or even twice on the ground. They win 24-13, and that's just how it is. And Amari doesn't really contribute whatsoever. So I'd go with Darnell Mooney versus Amari. PPR, McMillan, Odunze, or Calvin Ridley. I'd go with Calvin Ridley. Ridley is flex 57. Odunze is flex 86. And I know McMillan is down in here. So Paulson would also say Calvin Ridley. Especially if Pollard is out, Ridley is the best option on the team, I think, offensively. So I'd go with Ridley with Mason Rudolph. How aggressive are you trying to sell guys like Kittle, Henry, McLaurin in the offseason on a contending squad, or is the play to try and sell next season when they're scoring points again? I think if you're contending right now, I'd probably just keep these guys. I don't really think that there's any reason to move off of them, because the only teams that are going to be interested in them are going to be teams that are probably also still competing. So you're going to be trading Derrick Henry and Terry McLaurin to a team that's competing against you. So not fully aggressive. There are going to be hard sells, I think, in the offseason, especially Derrick Henry, Kittle probably to an extent. McLaurin might still be a good sell in January and February. I'd probably like to sell McLaurin before free agency or the NFL draft, because the likelihood that Washington adds another wide receiver is pretty high, in my opinion. And even if that wide receiver is not as good as Terry McLaurin, I think any addition to Washington is going to be, you're going to have the conversation of, oh, well, McLaurin just came off a fantastic year, super efficient, lots of touchdowns. But if this guy starts to draw some targets away, maybe starts to draw some touchdowns away, blah, 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 you're going to get that kind of artificial devaluing of Terry McLaurin when they do add somebody. So McLaurin might still be a solid sell in January or February. But like I said, I'd like to do it probably before free agency or the NFL draft. But then, then I would just sell them again in season when they're scoring points. Or even in like August, whenever we're getting ready for the season and this team thinks that they can be competitive, they're just a Derrick Henry away from it. Derrick Henry might have good value then in August in a more redrafty kind of season. But if you're out of it right now, then sure, absolutely sell these guys. And I'd be fairly aggressive if you're already out of the playoffs. But by you framing this question, in my opinion, it seemed like you were still in the playoffs, right? I don't know if you're still in the chat. I don't know if you're still in the chat or not. I just scroll down to the bottom to see where we're at. There are a lot of questions in here. I got to move faster. This was the Jalen Polk conversation. Do you think Strange will be a thing heading into next year? It depends on what they do with Evan Ingram. He is kind of in that Michael Mayer, Isaiah Likely range where I think he's a really good handcuff, and depends on what they do with Evan Ingram. That will determine what Brenton Strange is. Like if Ingram is still there, then I think that Brenton Strange won't necessarily be a thing. But if they let Evan Ingram go, because I think he would need to be cut. Contract. No, screw you, player profiler. Yeah, he would need to be cut. He's a free agent in 2026, but they can cut him next year and save over $6 million. So, we'll see. 1.7 point per carry. 1.7 point. Ertz or Rome? Point per catch. I still go with Rome Odunze on this one. I don't even know if Ertz is playing. Usually, the hit that he took in his head looked pretty bad last week. So I'd go with Rome Odunze still. At this point, should I just hold on to Ridley for next season if the best offer I have received is a 27 second? I'm considering sending Chuba in a tier down at running back plus Tillman. I would probably take a second for Ridley. I would still probably take a 27 second for Ridley. And depending on what the running back is for the tier down, I could get on board with the Chuba one. But it depends on what the running back is. I'd probably sell Ridley for a second, though. I'm looking at a lot of Dynasty rookie lists. I don't watch a lot of college football, but RJ Harvey's numbers seem great. A lot of people leave him out. I don't even know who that is. See, I don't watch a lot of college football either. UCF. 1,622 will do it. A little bit of receiving volume too. Interesting. What's his UCF? 59208. All right. That's like Travion Henderson's size. Not bad. All right. I'm going to have to look into him. He might make the list of interesting third round rookie targets this year. We'll see how it goes. Drake May or Caleb Williams in Dynasty, would you trade one for one? I would not trade one for the other. There would need to be some sort of plus on whichever side that I'm getting. I hate one for one same position trades that they're both basically like in the same situation. One for one same position trades I think makes sense when you're going from a descending asset to an ascending asset. Like if you were to trade Tyreek Hill for BTJ right now, don't hate that one for one trade. But I don't think it makes any sense to trade Tank Dell for Jordan Addison, or I don't know. That's a bad example, but you kind of get what I mean. So I think this is the same situation. I just don't think it makes any sense to trade one for the other. I think if I were to prefer one in a startup, I'd probably take Drake May over Caleb Williams. So I would rank May over Williams, but they'd probably be in the same tier, and I'm not trading one for one in the same tier. There would need to be a plus applied on the side that I'm getting back. How do I trade for Trey McBride? Is Pitts in a late first enough? I don't think so. It could potentially, depends on what they view as Kyle Pitts, but it might just be easier just to pay 2 firsts than it is to pay Pitts in a late first. If it was a 25 and a 26 first for Trey McBride, I'd probably take Trey McBride. And that's probably a way nicer trade on the other side than Pitts in a late first. Or if it was Pitts in a first and a second, if this is kind of the core of the trade and you just got to add pieces around it, then I'm on board with it, but I just don't think that that's enough. Should I bench Kelsey? My other options are, I guess, rank these guys this week in a semis. You don't have to start Kelsey in your tight end spot. You don't have a tight end spot. So I'd start AJ Brown. I would start. I don't know if Kenneth Walker's playing. I probably would start Kelsey over Kenneth Walker. Minnesota's run defense is really good. Bucky, I think in general, I would start over Kelsey. DJ Moore and Neighbors, maybe. Jones, maybe. Man, are you benching Kelsey? Where's Kelsey? Kelsey is flex 61 for Paulson. He is ahead of... Is he ahead of any of these guys? Aaron Jones, not ahead of Jones. Kenneth Walker is not even ranked in here because I don't even know if he's playing. He's not ahead of Bucky. He's not ahead of DJ Moore. He's not ahead of Neighbors. And he's not ahead of AJ Brown because AJ Brown's ahead of Neighbors. I guess when these are your options, you're benching Travis Kelce. That's kind of wild. But yeah, I guess you're benching Travis Kelce. T. Higgins is, I didn't even see. Yeah, T. Higgins is right behind Neighbors. So yeah, you're definitely playing T. Higgins over Kelce. That's wild, dude. What a roster. For this week, Standard League, Abdullah, Jalen Warren, or Charbonnet? Standard League. I'd go with Charbonnet again if he plays, if Walker's out, basically. If Walker's out, I'd play Charbonnet. If Walker's in, I'd play Jalen Warren. That's how I'd go with it. Betting my fantasy season on JMO this week in my last flex spot over DK. Need the best upside play, so I'm just setting and praying that JMO gets a long touchdown. Honestly, I feel like DK has just as high, if not higher, of a ceiling than Jameson Williams, because I feel like DK has the same probability of getting that long touchdown, plus also has the upside of having like 5 or 6 receptions for, I feel like I'd play with DK Metcalf. If I went down swinging with JMO and DK had like 20 points on my bench, I'd be so mad at myself. But I think I would be less mad if I played DK, he only had like 8 points and JMO had like 20 because of a 70-yard touchdown or something like that. I feel like I'd be more upset if I benched DK and lost, and DK did well. I'd probably play DK. Another Brazilian here. Man, I don't even know if I want to try to pronounce that. Guilherme. I'm not even. That's so bad. I'm so sorry, but appreciate you watching from Brazil, man. That is awesome. I love hearing that there's international people. Yeah, maybe. Aaron Jones is. Paulson has Bucky ranked ahead of Aaron Jones. That's really just how scared you are of the injury for Bucky if he could re-aggravate it. But I think in general, you're playing Bucky over Aaron Jones. How big is the drop off between Tet and the second best receiver? I think it's an okay drop off. I will say though that I think that there is a bigger drop off. So currently I have Tet and Luther Burden as my 1 and 2. I think there's a bigger drop off from Burden to the wide receiver 3 than there is from Tet to Burden. So there is a drop off from 1 to 2, but the drop off from 2 to 3 is bigger than the drop off from 1 to 2. But I still like Tet over everybody else. And I would love to rank Travis Hunter as a wide receiver. I just have no idea if he is going to play wide receiver. Because he's in a mix with a couple other guys for who wide receiver 3 could be for me, but I just have no idea if Travis Hunter is going to play wide receiver. That's like my only. If Travis Hunter, if you told me right now Travis Hunter is not going to play DB at all, he's going to be a full-time wide receiver in the NFL. Then he would easily be a top 3 wide receiver in the class, and then that's where I would say that there's a nice big 3 of Tet, Burden, and Hunter, and then the fall off from 3 to 4 would be massive. But I don't know what Travis Hunter is going to be at the NFL level. I have no idea. 10-team Dynasty Superflex PPR half tight end premium. I have Joe Burrow, Stafford, AR, and Aiden O'Connell as QBs. Going to start Burrow, but which other QB should I start? I think I'd go with Stafford. Paulson would say Anthony Richardson. Do I trust Anthony Richardson, though? Because Stafford has a better matchup, but he is in New York. So he's got to travel from LA to New York. Richardson is at home against the Titans. Do I trust Anthony Richardson? Aiden O'Connell is not even in this discussion, I don't think. It's really just between Stafford and AR. By AR, that is Anthony Richardson, right? Like, that's not Aaron Rodgers. Because if this is Aaron Rodgers, then I'd play Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. But if this is start AR 30 bomb incoming, I mean, it's really just how much risk are you willing to swallow? I'm fine playing Anthony Richardson over Stafford. I just don't know if that's where I want to put my week 16 on. Ba, 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 ba. Thoughts on here we go. Thoughts on Travis Hunter for one QB. I'm loving the fear on him in my league because it could push him down the board. And if I can get him in the back of first, I'll take the risk and live with the result. See, I'm fine with that in the back of the first. Like his range of outcomes, I think, is very wide. Like he could be the wide receiver 3 in this class, or he could be the wide receiver 9 or 10. It all just depends on how much he actually plays wide receiver at the NFL level. In the late first, I'm totally fine taking that risk because I don't think the upside is going to be anywhere near the upside of Travis Hunter with any of these other wide receivers. Like if you're debating between Travis Hunter and like him and Isaiah Bond, like I think that, I think it's Travis Hunter pretty easily. Or him and Tez Johnson, I think it's Travis Hunter pretty easily. Or him versus, whoever the running back 5 or 6 ends up being, like him versus Nick Singleton, I feel like it's Travis Hunter in that regard. But if it's like a top 5 or 6 pick, then I probably wouldn't do that. So it really does come down to price point for Travis Hunter. I just have no idea what the heck he is. But at late first, I'll go for it. A loser's this is by far so I do have a strong opinion on this one. This is by far the worst way to determine draft order for non-playoff teams is to have them do a loser's bracket, and then whoever wins the loser's bracket gets the best pick. So you're rewarding the 7th best team. At this, I do have strong opinions on this, that this is the worst way to go about it. I would rather do a lottery. Much rather do a lottery than a loser's bracket. So lottery in the sense that the worst record or the worst points for has the greatest odds of being the 1.01, but they might not get it based on the lottery. I would rather do that than a loser's bracket. Loser's bracket is by far the worst thing to do for Dynasty to determine draft picks. Fantasy Condo, Addison picked 2 quarterbacks this week out of Mahomes, Purdy, and Rodgers. I'd go with Rodgers as one, and Paulson would say to go with Brock Purdy over Matthew Stafford, and I think I agree with him. So I'd go with Purdy and Rodgers on this one. It's close, though. But I think it's Purdy and Rodgers. Genji, did you I know that you like Ashton Genty but like, did you watch my rookie running back preview video from yesterday? Because I slightly addressed the small school thing from Boise State. And if you feel the same way about Genty, that he might be overrated because he went to Boise State, you should just quickly Google LaDainian Tomlinson's college seasons and his college numbers. And that'll quickly clear some things up on whether or not we should care that he went to a small school. Here for the memes with the $5 super chat. Sup, Addy. Happy holidays. No questions, just vibes. My man, I appreciate you so much. Yeah, let's get this dub this week, man. Let's get this dub, and we can talk about it for week 17. But appreciate the $5 super chat so much, man. And hopefully you have a wonderful holiday season. That's LT though. Yeah, but I mean, collegiately, Ashton Genty was doing things that LaDainian Tomlinson wasn't. I hate spelling LaDainian Tomlinson because I don't know where the I's go, and it's really annoying. So he played. So he did, like, LT did play at TCU, but if you look at his game log, LT, when he rushed for 2,100 yards and 22 touchdowns, he played Nevada, Northwestern, Arkansas State, Navy, Hawaii, Tulsa, Rice, San Jose State, Fresno State, UTEP, and SMU. It's 100% hindsight, but it like him, Matt Forte went to a small school. Like Shady went to Pitt and they didn't really play all that many people. Who else was on that list? Like Aaron Jones went to UTEP. I'm missing someone. CJ2K, small school. That's just it's not like it's totally uncommon for elite running backs in the NFL to come out of smaller schools and not have played anybody in college. You know my super team is still alive, Addy. Yeah, you love to see it. I knew your super team was going to be alive when we were talking about it back in July, dude. That was your league. That was your league to lose. Pacheco went to Rutgers. Technically a Big Ten school, though. They're just a really bad Big Ten school. Pacheco. Where were we with questions? There it is. Small school hater. Found it. Found where we got off the rails. Back on the rails. Who's a better start between Dobbs or Dell? I think I would go with Dell still. Dobbs is wide receiver 43. Dell is wide receiver 42. And I'd go with Tank Dell against Kansas City. I like that better than the Packers against the Saints, who Dobbs could have like 2 catches and then they just run the clock down with Josh Jacobs. And I'd go with Tank Dell. Please choose one player to bench between Kittle, McBride, Evans, Connor, and JT. Well, I feel like McBride, Evans, and Connor are must starts. Connor gets Carolina. Evans just feels like a must start. McBride feels like a must start. So between Kittle and Jonathan Taylor. So before I look this up from Paulson, my initial thought on this is to sit Kittle. But Kittle is flex 27 and Jonathan Taylor's flex 23. Aha. Connor's flex 9. Evans is flex 16. And McBride is flex 33. Paulson would say to sit Trey McBride. I think I want to sit George Kittle. But I don't mind I think it's one of the tight ends. Or Jonathan Taylor. I trust JT's workload against Tennessee at home. I'm sitting Kittle, I think, on this one. What is your general offseason strategy? Do you lay low until closer to the draft, or are you active throughout? I do, just in general, probably take a break for 2 months. January and February, I probably kind of not really look at my dynasty leagues. I enjoy the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl. I kind of start, that, especially from my standpoint as a content creator, that's kind of where I'm really diving into a lot of the new draft class. So a lot of my time is being spent evaluating rookies. So then I can go through and, try to maximize my abilities in the rookie drafts and stuff like that. But I feel like January and February are just like a really low time for the NFL just in general, especially when the NFL season actually ends. There really isn't anything happening. Like coaches get fired and then hired. But then free agency doesn't start until like mid-March. So that kind of gives me enough time basically through the combine to really get a good grasp on what this class is or whatever that class is going on for rookies. And then the free agency will happen. That'll shift some player values. And then that's when I start to get back into it. So changing with some free agency stuff, I'll buy and sell players based on that. I'll buy and sell players that I believe could be impacted by the NFL draft, either positively or negatively. And then rookie drafts will happen. So then that's kind of what's going on. then you buy and sell players that got impacted by the NFL draft, that actually got impacted by the NFL draft. Plus, you're buying and selling to get into the rookie draft or move around the board or move out of the certain spots. Then I probably lay low again in June and July, and then I get back into it in August. So that's kind of like my calendar, I guess, for how the offseason goes. So fairly active throughout. Definitely months where I just kind of take a break, especially again as a content creator and this being my full time job. The season gets so grueling, so that I like to take a break in January and February, and then I also like to take a break just naturally in June, coming off of rookie draft season and draft season just in general, making content for all that, and taking a break before we get into regular season mode, essentially. So it naturally occurs just around the fact that this is my job too. So breaks are much needed. Lots of conversation in the chat. Love to see it. Still going. 12 teams start 11. Would you trade Breece in a late second for Jacobs in a late first? Ooh, probably. I like that trade down from Breece to Jacobs, and I like getting that first on top, even with you having to throw in that second to get it done. I think I would take Jacobs in a first, especially if you're still competing. Jacobs is probably going to be a better asset for you for the last 2 weeks of the year. And then you get that full round bump up potentially to turning a second into a first. I'll take Jacobs in a first on this one. I like that a lot. And then start one between Marv, Richardson, Cooper Rush, or Strange. I'll play Anthony Richardson in this. Just too much upside, and even though his floor feels low, I just feel like his floor is still very solid compared to all the other guys as the quarterback in this one. So I'll go Anthony Richardson. Started Lad. Now I had to pick two between Terry, Jennings, Keenan, and Ridley. I think I'd go Terry and Keenan. McLaurin is flex 34. Keenan is flex 56. Ridley is flex 57. And Jennings is flex 37. So Paulson would say to play Terry and Jennings. I'm not a huge Juwan Jennings fan. I think I would play Keenan Allen. I like his matchup against Detroit in a game where they're probably going to have to throw a lot more. Keenan's been doing pretty well. So I think I'd play Keenan and Terry McLaurin. Paulson would say Terry and Jennings. I'm saying Terry and Keenan. And if Walker and Charbonnet both play, would you start Walker, Spears, or Abdullah? I think this also depends on if Pollard plays or not. If Pollard is out, I'd play Tyjae Spears. If Pollard is in, I'll play Kenneth Walker. I don't really care about Abdullah in this. Not an Ibuka fan. No, I mean, I think Ibuka is fine. It's just that I don't know if fine really excites me. You know what I mean? Like, he is the first wide receiver. I was going through like my initial markers. Now that the 2024 season is essentially over, and a lot of these percentages won't really change over the next couple of weeks, especially for, Ibuka could still have 4 more games to play potentially, which is crazy. But for a lot of the other players, their seasons are done or basically done. But like Ibuka is the first wide receiver on my list that does not have a 30% breakout age. And I just don't like that. Like 30% breakout age is a pretty solid indicator of elite NFL upside. It's not to say that there are no wide receivers that don't have a 30% breakout age ever went on to be good in the NFL. That's certainly not the case, but it's definitely a lot better to have than not to have. I will say that. So it's, when I see that he's just doesn't have a 30% breakout age, that's like one of my initial, like, not red flags, but like an orange or yellow flag on him. Of course, he has reasons to be. I mean, he played with JSN and Marvin Harrison Jr. and And even Olave and Garrett Wilson, he was a freshman for, I think, at that point. So like he's played behind a lot of really, really good wide receivers. So there's reasons why he doesn't have a 30% breakout age, but also he didn't play with any of them this year. He was the wide receiver 1 for the team for the most part. But I think he's fine. I think that's basically it. He's just fine, and that's where I'm at. Offered Kittle and 2 firsts for ETN. The guy said no. Was so desperate for a running back, would have screwed my future. Holy crap. Sometimes the best dynasty trades are the ones that you don't make. I remember this feels like a long time ago now because it kind of look he was. It was like 2017, 2018. I offered my buddy 2 first-round picks for Terrell Pryor after his breakout year. Then Pryor never did anything ever again. So yeah, I've been in that same boat. Sometimes the best dynasty trades are the ones that you don't make. Start 2 between London, Garrett Wilson, and Addison. Vikings Seahawks expecting rain concerns me. Yeah, I'll play Garrett Wilson for sure. I'm good playing Drake London over Addison. If you want to go for that route, if the rank is concerning to you, London is flex 42 and Addison is flex 44. So technically, from a projection standpoint, Paulson also has London ranked ahead of Addison by 0.3 fantasy points. So from his projections, he would also say London and Wilson too. Ray Rice went to Rutgers when they weren't Big Ten. That's true. Have you kept with the JUCO news regarding Diego Pop? I've seen the stuff on Twitter. I don't know. I don't really know like the full story, I guess. That could change college football forever. That's the headline that just came up when I typed in his name on Google. He's played for 5 years. Players typically have 4 years of eligibility. Yep, but he got the 5th because of COVID. Yep, for sure. He was granted a preliminary injunction from a federal judge on Wednesday that would allow him to play D1 football in 2025. His team contested that the rules under the Sherman Act were not fairly applied to former JUCO players. So is the ruling essentially saying that JUCO players don't earn eligibility years? Like the years that you play in JUCO don't count towards your entire collegiate eligibility? Is that what it is? Like, is that a proper summation of what's going on? I don't honestly know. I've seen the people saying that this is kind of a weird one. Oh, I have a Cryptic Rocket with a $2 super chat. This was from like 7 minutes ago. Stupid StreamYard not telling me I need to pay more attention to the thing. Cryptic Rocket, I am so sorry for just getting to this now, but thank you so much for the $2 super chat. So in a PPR tight end premium start 2, Otten, Strange, ETN, or Kendre Miller? Oh boy. Tight end premium. How much of a tight end premium? Yikes. Because Paulson's rankings right now, and my initial instinct was just to say go with the 2 running backs for the touch floor. And Paulson agrees with me on that, and that Etienne and Kendre Miller are the 2 highest ranked players in this group. Now the premium, a full extra point. So it's regular PPR, and then the tight ends get a full extra point PPR. See, that was like the one instance where I could be swayed on starting one of the tight ends. So he would go up to like 11. Yeah, he enters the Kendre Miller range, and Brenton Strange does too. Brenton Strange actually probably passes Kendre Miller in that regard. I think I'm sitting Otten. I think I want to remove Otten from this equation just because I don't necessarily trust the usage that he's been getting. Obviously, since Evans has been back, but then McMillan's been doing really well too. But if McMillan doesn't play, or no, McMillan should play. This is old news from here. Otten has 2 catches and 3 catches over the last 2 weeks. I think I'm going to remove Otten from that equation. So we're going to talk about Strange, Etienne, and Kendre Miller. I think Etienne needs to be a start, just because they play Vegas. He's going to get the touches. He's probably going to maybe get the same number of receptions as Brenton Strange. And even though Strange is going to outproduce him from a extra premium, Etienne's also going to get 12 to 15 carries. So I think Etienne's a lock and Otten is a bench. So between Kendre and Brenton Strange, I'm good playing Brenton Strange on the other side, especially if we get a repeat of last week, because they're playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a terrible defense. That if he gets 5 or 6 receptions, that's really all you need. And he'll probably beat Kendre Miller outside of Kendre scoring a touchdown. So I think I'll play Etienne and Brenton Strange on that one. And projection wise, if I were to add an extra point for Brenton Strange's projections based on the number of receptions that he has projected out, he would be the second option. So it would be Etienne and Strange for Paulson too. That's a really interesting start sit, Cryptic Rocket. So Etienne and Strange, hopefully that works out for you. Thank you so much for the super chat. And I'm sorry I got to it late, that I didn't see it, but hopefully that helps you out. Basically, he got or will be granted. It isn't official yet, but he got 2 years of JUCO erased. So now JUCO years won't count towards your 4-year eligibility at 4-year university. It's not official, but people are extremely upset with this ruling. I agree to this will kill high school recruiting. So I was right in the sense that if this goes through, JUCO years at JUCO does not count towards your 4-year, right? So you theoretically could play 3 or 4 years at JUCO and then go play another 4 years at university. Like theoretically, that's what could happen. Yeah. Why go 4-year when you can get free development at JUCO? Then you can transfer and get all your years. Yeah, I do agree with that. I do think that from that regard, that's really dumb. 100. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that's a bad ruling. We'll have to see how that shakes out because that's going to impact a lot of draft classes from here on out if that's like an actual thing. Because like this is really the last draft class that we're going to have where the COVID year was like an impact. Because this is like the 5th year since COVID. So freshmen who got an extra year of eligibility, theoretically, this is the last year. Maybe next year is kind of technically the last year for the COVID year. But yeah, the JUCO thing could be horrible. I mean, it might theoretically be good for the game of college football, and because I mean, Sanders and Hunter, like they did well in JUCO, then they came up. So I just don't like that that you just are not earning eligibility. You're not contributing towards your eligibility years by playing at JUCO. I do think that's dumb. Where did I leave off whenever we got down into that? Are you running any startup dynasty leagues in the off season? Ideally, 0. I don't want to join any more leagues, so I don't want to run any startup leagues. Because I right now I play in like 3 or 4 dynasties, and that's about all I can handle. So I probably will not be running any startups, unfortunately. Price check on Garrett Wilson, and would you pay it if he's flex in a 12 by 11? I would pay. I think Garrett Wilson is still 2 firsts. 2 firsts for Garrett Wilson, and that's where we're at. Am I getting cute starting May or Stafford? May over Stafford or Mahomes? I think yes. I would still play Stafford and Mahomes over Drake May this week. Curious as to where Brooks ranks with these rookies, seeing as how he was seen as RB1 in the class last season. So the hard part is Jonathan Brooks is now second knee injury. As a prospect, Brooks would probably rank as the RB 2 or 3 in this year's class for me currently. So it would really just be like Genty would be 1. And then between Omarion Hampton and Jonathan Brooks would basically be my 2 and 3. So Brooks would be as a prospect ahead of either Ohio State guy, Nick Singleton, Caleb Johnson, Ollie Gordon, anybody. Like he would be above all of them. So I'd have Brooks basically as the RB 2 or 3 in this class. I don't know if I could say that he's a better prospect than a Hampton, but I also can't say that Hampton's a better prospect right now. In terms of present day value, I would take Omarion Hampton over Jonathan Brooks today, because he does not have 2 knee injuries, and there's still upside that maybe he goes to a situation where he's not behind Chuba or a player like Chuba. So I would take Omarion Hampton over Brooks today, but as prospects, I think they were pretty equal. I love this strategy. This is a fantastic strategy. Terrell Pryor was a vibe. He certainly was. I was pretty high on him going into that year, and thank goodness my friend was higher on him because it was bad. I am in a dynasty league where we, instead of kickers and defenses, we each start a cornerback and a D lineman. Does this make Travis Hunter a must draft due to him getting credit for defense and offensive stats? Probably. Yeah, I'm assuming that you're probably getting even if you start Travis Hunter in your wide receiver spot, you're going to be getting the defensive stats for him. Like it's not, I've seen some leagues that they're really dumb where you don't get the stats of, essentially it's not like we've ever seen a two-way player before, but if you're in an IDP league, but your wide receiver or your quarterback gets a tackle whenever they throw a pick, that they don't get points for that tackle because they're not started as a defensive player. That's essentially this, but on a much grander scale because he's going to be playing 2 ways potentially. So as long as your league is going to give you points for Hunter's offensive and defensive stats, no matter what position you start him at, I feel like, yeah, in that regard, he probably should be a top 3 pick. I think I'd still take Genty over him, and I'd probably still take Tet over him. But then at 1.03, I'd take Travis Hunter then for both numbers. You do get the stats in my league, yeah. So I think I would still take Genty and Tet over him in this very specific league. But I think Travis Hunter then would be 103. Brandon Miller just got ruled out again with an ankle injury. Fantasy basketball, dude. I'm telling you, dude. The season is just way too long. It's the same issue that I had with fantasy baseball. The season is so much longer, and you're just constantly setting lineups, and it is very, very tiring. I did both of them back in high school when I was much younger, much more energetic, and much more gung ho about fantasy, non-fantasy football fantasies back then with baseball and basketball. And dude, I don't have the time nor the energy for it again. It was fun, but never again. That's essentially, I mean, that's it, dude. When I'm constantly worrying about players getting hurt and having to set my lineup and checking it, it's way too much, man. These dudes play 2, 3, 4 nights a week. Can't do it. Dylan, hey Addison, I'm in a Dynasty league where since Travis. Yep, we got that one. As a Pats fan, please bench Drake May. Jeremiah loved the night. 2026 running back, possibly RB1. I like Darius Taylor at Minnesota. That's getting logged away. I don't watch college football as much as I should. Doing baseball lineups daily was just grueling. That's another in the trenches. I'll stick with fantasy football, and that's all I'll do. People that do fantasy hockey, same thing. It's my buddy, the same one that turned down Terrell Pryor for 2 firsts. He was in a league where you played 4 fantasy leagues all in one, and they were all dynasties. So it was, you had a fantasy football lineup, a fantasy basketball lineup, a fantasy baseball lineup, and a fantasy hockey lineup. And you're able to trade assets and players between sports to improve or rebuild in all of those different. So like you could have traded, again, this was in like 2018. So like you could have traded like Steph Curry for Saquon Barkley. And like that is just way too much for me. It's like there's just, he was like constantly trying to figure out how to improve his team, and then he would like ride with it based on different seasons. So he'd be like, all right, I can load up on my basketball team now that the NFL is done, and then I can rebuild my football team again whenever basketball and hockey finish. But then baseball is also still playing for like 8 months. It's just, dude. It was interesting hearing the different trades that he would be able to make. He'd be like, yeah, I traded my 2019 NHL first round pick for Kirk Cousins, and then I traded my this for that. It was insane. It was insane. But anyway, we have reached the end of the questions, and we are almost at 2 p.m. Eastern time over here. So I've been live for almost 2 hours. So unless we have any buzzer beater questions, I think this is a wrap on week 16. I was debating whether or not to go live next week, just because of, Christmas and the holidays and stuff. But with Christmas being on Wednesday, Friday being 2 days after that, I think I'll be Christmased out. So I should be good to go next Friday for another stream. And plus it's championship week. So if I'm not available during the most important week of the year for you guys to try to help you guys out, what am I even doing? So I should be live next Friday. But all right. I think that'll do it, everybody. Congratulations on getting it this far in your leagues, on making your semifinals. I wish you guys the best of luck for winning this week and advancing to your fantasy championships next week. Hopefully all these start-sit questions worked out for you guys, especially as I was leaning on Paulson. So don't blame me, blame Paulson, because no, I'm just kidding. But yes, good luck to everybody in your semifinals matchups this weekend. I hope to hear that we have many, many championships to go after next week, and hopefully we can help you guys win some money, win some hardware, some gold, and that'll be it. So appreciate everybody for sticking around for the last 2 hours, and have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. Good luck in your matchups. Have a fantastic time with your family, and for the holidays next week. If you celebrate Christmas or anything else, just have a fantastic holiday weekend and week next week. Merry Christmas to everybody. So that'll be it. Appreciate everyone. Have a great weekend. Great holidays. We'll catch you guys next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time for championship week. Good luck this week. See you guys later. Peace.